There's as a sports fan and as a diehard football fan, there's one place that I've never been that I really, really want to go to, and that is the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So it's very cool to have the Chief of Staff and Vice President of Communications for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Peter Farrelly, on the phone with us. Peter, let's talk induction weekend. What can the fans look forward to in Canton, Ohio this weekend?
Well, it's a kickoff of the NFL's 97th season, and I can tell you guys this is just a great celebration that every year gets bigger and bigger, and I'm looking out my office window at a brand new, or at least a half of a brand new, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. Big development going on here in Canton as we're developing the Hall of Fame campus into something called Hall of Fame Village, which will be a huge undertaking, 8 main components to it that'll transform this campus and make it a football heaven for all those fans out there.
Peter, Brett Favre is the headliner in this year's class. You have any favorite Brett Favre stories you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'm going to tell you my favorite Brett Favre story really comes from the day before the Super Bowl, because I'll give you a little insight and your listeners to tell you what a selection process is like for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's a year-round process, and then the day before the Super Bowl, we lock our 46 selectors into a room for about 10 hours, and waiting nearby are our 18 finalists in a hotel. And this meeting lasts for about 10 hours.
Wow.
And at the conclusion of that conclusion of that meeting, we have our accounting firm who will tally those votes. We'll let our president, David Baker, know the results. And then it's his duty to go around and knock on the doors for those individuals who didn't make it and let them know that this wasn't their year. Oh. But then he goes around and he knocks on the door and he tells the newest members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame that they're going to Canton. And sometimes it sounds like almost too corny to say this, but it is absolutely true. I've been at the Hall a long time, and the one thing I never grow tired of is how someone reacts when they learn they're going to Canton. Getting into the Hall of Fame is absolutely life-changing. There's been about 27,000 people in the history of this game who've been paid to coach it, play it, or administer it, and as of this Saturday, there will be just 303 with bronze busts. And I think Brett Favre had a pretty good idea he was getting in. I think we knew he was getting in. The selection process, again, a very, very long day, that selection meeting. Typical discussion on a candidate might last 20 or 25 minutes. A couple of them went about an hour. The debate on Brett Favre lasted 9 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, though? My great moment is when he got the knock on the door, and he knew he was getting in, when our president told him, and your listeners can go online and look it up, it went pretty viral the day before the Super Bowl. But when he learned he was going to Canton, he had the same reverence for what that means as Kevin Green, the great Pittsburgh Steeler and Los Angeles Ram, had, who's waited 12 years, who for 5 straight years heard that he wasn't getting there. For the Dick Stanfel family, who waited 54 years for their father to be enshrined. Brett Favre was as humble as all of them, and he is as down to earth as there is. But I think he's bringing about 15 or 20,000 fans from Green Bay with him. It's going to be a pretty electric weekend.
Tell us about, if you can, the one of the most memorable reactions, and what player was involved.
Well, there's the reaction. What is great about all of this is that they learn that, the day before the Super Bowl, we parade them out during the Super Bowl. The day after the Super Bowl, our staff meets with them to kind of give them an orientation so they can prepare what it means what it's going to be like when they come to Canton. And for your listeners who've never been here, is that it is it's a pretty spectacular weekend. It is literally 700,000 people who participate in all of these events. This community has been celebrating for 2 weeks. On Thursday night, we'll have the Gold Jacket dinner, where we'll have a record number of over 140 of our Hall of Famers represented. And there'll be this gauntlet of gold jackets that Brett Favre and Marvin Harrison, who, of course, played his football not too far away from Albany up there in Syracuse's college football, and Tony Dungy and Kevin Green and Orlando Pace, and they'll walk through this gauntlet. And it is the who's who of football greats, from Joe Namath to Gale Sayers to Troy Aikman, to Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith. I mean, the names go on and on and on. And then they get to the stage and they put on that gold jacket. The next night, we'll kick off the weekend with a concert. This year, we have Tim McGraw, who's playing our Concert for Legends. And then on Saturday, we will have all those record number of Hall of Famers on stage as these 8 members step to the podium and get enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And as much as they think they're prepared for that moment, they really aren't. And that's a really cool moment. And ESPN, of course, along with NFL Network, will be broadcasting that live. And it is a great moment in sports. And it's really transcends more than just what happened on the football field. This is their legacy. This is what got them, to this point, and it gives them an opportunity to thank all those friends and family and people who played such an important role in getting them here. And, what the Pro Football Hall of Fame is all about, our mission is to honor the heroes of the game, preserve its history, promote its values, and celebrate excellence everywhere. And when I talked a little earlier about what we're doing with Hall of Fame Village, it's all built around that mission statement, and we focus on 5 core values of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence that not only make you a Hall of Famer, but those are the same values that make you a great broadcaster, a great business person, a great mother, a great father. And that's really what we're using with these guys is, we're giving them a platform that we can shine the light on them to really show how football is a lot more than just what goes on the field. It really represents kind of the game for life, and that's what happens at the enshrinement. So I could talk for hours about some of the great moments, but, I keep going back to Syracuse, but Art Monk was one. One of my favorite moments is he's someone who took many years to get in, the great Washington Redskins wide receiver. And when he stepped to the podium, the stadium was filled with Redskins fans, and he went to speak. And as he went to speak, the crowd got a little louder. He said, "Thank you," and then he stepped back, and then he tried it again. And every time he stepped to the podium, the crowd just got more and more electric. And I get chills thinking about it. He had over a 4.5-minute standing ovation.
Wow.
And one of the cool parts of my job is I get a great view of the enshrinement. I'm backstage, and I get to be pretty close to what's going on. And I'll tell you, that is a moment that certainly was chilling, but there's just so many great moments.
Peter Farrelly of the Pro Football Hall of Fame joins us right here on 104.5 The Team, Levack and Wolf. So, Peter, you've got a pretty big class this year. You touched on some: Brett Favre, Marvin Harrison, Orlando Pace, Dick Stanfield, Kevin Green, Ken Stabler, Eddie DeBartolo Jr., Tony Dungy. Where do you rank this year's class as far as other classes who have made their way into the Hall of Fame?
Just to get to the Hall, I mean, it's extraordinary. I don't really rank them, but I can say this class, to me, really represents such a high level of excellence. You have someone like Eddie DeBartolo, who really kind of set the mold for the owners of today. And you talk to any teammate, and you'll see, if you watch the broadcast on Saturday night, you're going to see all of those players in the crowd who come back. And there's not a person who played for the 49ers under Eddie DeBartolo who aren't just absolutely enjoying his moment here this weekend. And they owe their lives and their careers to him. And he really did change the way owners related to their players. He was someone who, was kind of, I wouldn't say hands off, but he really wanted to know, what did you need to succeed? And then he went out and he provided that. And I think that's why they became such a dynasty team. You have Tony Dungy, who, of course, great player, but as a coach, I mean, he really, aside from becoming the first African-American head coach to win a Super Bowl, he's a mentor to so many African-American coaches who he really paved the way for them. And when you look at the success he had, I mean, he took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in just 2 years from being double-digit losses to a playoff team. He comes to Indianapolis. His first year, he wins 10 games. For the rest of his time there, they win no less than 12 games a season. I mean, incredible success, all done without really needing to raise his voice. His demeanor and his leadership was just extraordinary. Brett Favre, I mean, we could...
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say Brett Favre. I mean, obviously, he and Ken Stabler are kind of from the same mold. So it's kind of exciting to see these type of quarterbacks. Ken Stabler, of course, will be enshrined posthumously. He passed away last summer, but very gunslingers on the football field. Very, very similar.
What is your, if I'm coming to the Hall of Fame to visit? Clearly, I mean, I have a team preference. I'm a Giant fan, but what is your favorite part of the Hall of Fame? What is one of the exhibits that is a must see to anybody that goes, Peter?
Well, we've just done we've just opened 2 major exhibits, and I can tell you it's really kind of transforming where we're going, and we're creating the Hall of Fame to be what we call the most inspiring place on earth. And I talked a little bit about what those values are and what we're trying to do. And what we just opened is a new technology created by some of the best in Hollywood, and it invites you into a locker room for just Hall of Famers, and it's an immersive, multi-sensory immersive experience with a hologram that Joe Namath steps out, and he looks every bit as real as if he were standing there himself. And he has a magic chalkboard, and he has other Hall of Famers who share stories. Ellen Page, Jim Brown, Jim Kelly, who talked about how his losing 4 straight Super Bowls with the Buffalo Bills taught him how to persevere. So later in life, when he had to battle cancer, the game gave him that foundation. And when you leave there, we want people to come here as great football fans. And I think one of the things that always excites me is I think this game is so popular, but I think the average fan doesn't know why they love the game so much. I think it is because it's such a great metaphor for life. And so when you leave, I can tell you I've been through a game for life several times, and it is just absolutely spectacular.
Peter Farrelly, he is the Chief of Staff and Vice President of Communications of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame game is this Sunday, Colts-Packers. Football is back. Peter, we love hearing from you. Thanks so much for making time.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Peter Farrelly of the Hall of Fame, man. That's all. Like, seriously, like when it all comes down, when it all